Hello everyone, I am Lady Irene Heresano, and for today's discussion, we will learn about the early civilizations of Andes. Here are the list of my topics content, and as you can see, we have here the societies arise in Andes and of course, the other Andean civilizations. So while civilizations were emerging in Mesoamerica, advanced societies were independently developing in South America, and its early cultures arose in a difficult environment of the Andes Mountains. The Andes Mountains stretch about 4,500 miles down the western edge of South America, which is from Colombia in the north to Chile in the south. And after the Himalayas in southern Asia, the Andes is the next highest mountain range in the world, as Andes Mountain has a number of peaks of over 20,000 feet in elevation, and just like what I've said a while ago, South America's first civilizations emerged in the northern Andes region in Peru. Peru was a harsh place to develop a civilization because the Andes Mountains are steep and rocky with generally poor soil. Ice and snow cover the highest elevations year-round, and overland, traveling is difficult. The climate is also severe, which is hot and dry during the day and often freezing at night. Between the mountains and the Pacific Ocean are the narrow coastal plain, and most of this plain is harsh desert where rain seldom falls. In some places, however, rivers cross the desert on their path from the mountains to the sea, and it was in these river valleys that the first settlements occurred. So between 3600 and 2500 BC, people began to establish villages along the Pacific coast, and these first inhabitants were hunter-gatherers who relied on seafood and small game for their survival. Then, around 3000 BC, these people or inhabitants began to farm, and by 1800 BC, a number of tribal communities existed along the coast. Moving on to the societies arise in Andes. The first influential civilization in South America arose in the mountain was the Chavin. It flourished from around 900 BC to 200 BC, and this period has no archaeological evidence of a military force or of a specific regional conquest. The first political structures of the Chavin period was unfortunately remain mysterious, but they did create a lasting artistic legacy which would influence almost all subsequent Andean civilizations. Thus, archaeologists conclude that the Chavin were primarily a religious civilization. So, Chavin religion. The Chavin religious center, Chavin de Huantar, became an important Andean pilgrimage site, and Chavin art was equally influential both with contemporary and later cultures from the Paracas to the Incas, helping to spread Chavin imagery and ideas and establish the first universal Andean belief system. Chavin de Huantar served as a gathering place for people to come together, so it was their ceremonial center which they can attend and participate in rituals, something like that. A great deal of Chavin art was directly related to their religious beliefs, and many items served religious purpose and held spiritual significance. It can be concluded that many sculpture and painted artifacts were used for religious ceremonies, while others pertained to their religious beliefs, especially an portrayal of deities. The picture that you see right now is the feline figure, and it is one of the most important motifs seen in Chavin art. It has an important religious meaning and is repeated on many carvings and sculptures. The spread of Chavin art styles and religious images that can be seen in their stone carving pottery, and textiles shows the powerful influence of this culture. Chavin art decorates the walls of the temple and includes carvings, sculptures, and pottery. Artists depicted foreign things such as jaguars and eagles rather than local plants and animals. Let's now proceed to the Chavin's art techniques. The art of the Chavin culture is seemingly abstract and is intentionally difficult to interpret and understand because it was intended to only be read by high priests of the Chavin cult who would understand the complex and sacred designs. The image here is called Raimondi Stela, which is a major example of the typical Chavin design technique. I am going to show you three important artifacts which are the major examples of Chavin art. First, we have here the Telo obelisk. As you can see, it is a giant sculpted shaft featuring images of plants and animals including caimans, birds, crops, and human figures. The illustrations on this artifact may possibly tell a creation story. The second one is the tenon heads that are found throughout Chavindewantar and are one of the most popular images associated with the Chavin civilization. Tenon heads are large stone carvings of hung jaguar heads which stick out from the tops of the interior walls. And lastly, we have here the lanzon. It is a 4.53-meter long granite shaft displayed in the temple. The shaft extends through the entire floor of the structure and the ceiling. It is carved with an image of a Fang deity and it is the main cult image of the Chavin people. The Chavin are believed to have established certain patterns that help unify Andean culture and lay the foundation for later civilizations in Peru. Thus, like the Olmec in Mesoamerica, the Chavin may have acted as a mother culture in South America because it strongly influenced later cultures. Aside from that, other civilizations also emerged in Peru. First, the Nazca and then the Moche built societies that flourished in the Andes. So, Nazca civilization. Their culture flourished along the southern coast of Peru from around 200 BC to AD 600. This area is extremely dry, that's why they developed extensive irrigation systems, including underground canals that allowed them to farm the land. The Nazca are known for their beautiful textiles and pottery that both feature images of animals and mythological beings. The Nazca culture is known to have engaged in the practice of headhunting, and the striking images on their pottery indicate that the Nazca may have been headhunters. In numerous ceramic and textile designs, Nazca artisans depict the taking of human heads, probably from enemies in combat. The image that was shown in my presentation is a shrunken head, and for them, taking and displaying the head of an enemy was considered a way of increasing the strength and well-being of a community. Next is the Nazca's achievement. Their culture is noted for its distinctive pottery and textiles, and perhaps above all, the Nazca culture of Peru is perhaps most well known for the enigmatic Nazca lines. In fact, hundreds of lines and stylized images built into the Peruvian coastal plain. There are more than 1,000 drawings of animals, plants, humans, and geometric shapes, and most of them are so large that they can be recognized only from the air. Scientists believe that the Nazca people made the drawings between 200 BC and AD 600. Since the lines were discovered in 1927, people have proposed many theories about their purpose, the Nazca people worship mountain or sky gods and created the drawings to please them. Then The lines indicated where surface water entered the plain and marked elevated land between ancient riverbeds. And then they have the theory that the lines are a huge map that marks the course of underground water sources. And it seems incredible that such simply made drawings have survived for so many hundreds of years, just like this spider that was created more than 100 years ago. It survived because the surface is made of stone and not a sand. And then the climate of this area is such that there is a practically no erosion. Also, the region's arid climate sees almost no rain or wind throughout the year. And when we talk about its size, many of the Nazca drawings are huge. Some of these are more than 2,500 feet long, and the hummingbird that you'll see later is 165 feet long. The Nazca people probably created small model drawings and used math to reproduce them at such a vast scale. So this is the hummingbird that I was mentioned a while ago. Some scholars think that the lines were linked to a Nazca water cult or religion. The straight lines may have led to ceremonial sites, and the animals may have been symbols. For example, according to traditional beliefs, the hummingbird represents the mountains or the mountain gods, and the mountains were a main source of water. Meanwhile, on the northern coast of Peru, another civilization was reaching great heights. This was the Moche culture, which lasted from about AD 100 to AD 700. The fascinating and highly artistic Moche civilization and culture existed as a people living in the lower river valleys along the North Peruvian coastline. They were very skilled artists and potters. Their wide-ranging artistic cultures and traditions are attributed to the river valley environment, which was rich with metals and clay. Archaeologists have found beautiful jewelry craft from gold, silver, and semi-precious stones. The Moche were also brilliant ceramic artists. They created pottery that depicted scenes from everyday life. Unfortunately, their contribution to the history of cultures in Peru was restricted mainly to their artistic expression because they had no predominant written language and no written records were kept by the people. The Moche took advantage of the rivers that flowed from the Andes Mountains. They built impressive irrigation systems to water their wide range of crops, which included corn, beans, potatoes, squash, and peanuts. Nevertheless, many questions about the Moche remain. Experts still do not fully understand Moche religious beliefs, nor do they know why the Moche fell. Like many early cultures of the Americas, the Moche remains something of a mystery awaiting further archaeological discoveries. And that ends my topic. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.